sometimes art goes well beyond just something to observe. It's something to be experienced. And there are times when art embodies not only who you are as an artist, but also the culture that you're in and how you can pull together family and groups of individuals and knit a culture together. And there's a gentleman in the studio today that knows very much about that, and he does art from a different point of view. He uses the tongue in many other senses. Welcome to the show, Philip Tario.
Thanks for the very kind invite.
Oh,
for
pleasure.
allowing me to talk about something I've been doing for many years now.
Yes, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, as you can see, I'm a chef, but I feel that I'm a bit more than just a chef, because now actually I try and teach people, inspire people to cook. But I started at the very young age, about 15. Even before that, I did some cooking at school, sort of to go to hang out with the girls and get that little bit extra food, those treats. So, and then after, and also during my time at school, I actually did some dishwashing. As every person, you know, at one time or another probably ends up in a kitchen somewhere. And although I took engineering subjects at school, the one thing I found that I could do very well was cook. And both my parents are pretty good cooks, and I used to cook at home. So when it came to make a decision on what I was going to do possibly for the rest of my life, I decided to apply to the Savoy Hotel London as an apprentice chef. So there's this little guy, 15 years of age, traveling up to London on the tube, arriving at this huge, large kitchen full of foreign chefs. And most of them were foreigners, or foreign to me, all speaking different languages, all sort of working within a sort of orchestrated arrangement within the kitchen, and that was what I was landed into. So it was very confusing, a lot of noise, and I'm sure a lot of the viewers will know about Ramsay. Very much that style of kitchen, because I'm talking about the 70s, you know, 60s and 70s. So there wasn't sort of the safeguards that employees had. So you could be shouted at. They could get you to do extra time without pay. So that was the sort of environment I was introduced into. So it's very much in a way like joining the army, where you could have a sergeant major sort of square bashing you and telling you you've got to do this, and then shouting at you if you didn't do it quickly enough and going back and doing it again. In fact, my first chef, an Italian called Rollo, he was the chef de partie. His section was the soups, the farinaceous dishes, which is all the pasta dishes and all the egg dishes. So the first job in the morning was to get all the vegetables for the soups. So you had to prepare the vegetables, and the first part of preparation was to wash them. And as you washed them, I brought them back to the table. Chef Rollo would go through every bit of those vegetables, see one speck of dirt, send you back and wash it again. That was the discipline, which I still have today. And the discipline is you try and do it once and you do it right the first time. So cooking is first all about learning the trade. It really is. And then as you develop and as you learn the trade and you practice and you learn those techniques, then you can sort of refine what you've learned. And that's probably when it becomes more going into the realm of art as well.
What inspires you as a chef, as a cook yourself?
Well, people inspire me. The people I cook for, the people I teach, and the places when I travel, experiencing their food and their culture. I think that's what inspires all chefs.
Is food an important part of culture? How do you find that? Is there a strong connection there? Is a separation there? How much of culture is found within food, let's say?
It's the fundamentals of what we are as a human animal is eating and food, and how we share food with our families, friends, how we celebrate food, how our culture is reflected in the food that we prepare. So it's actually fundamental to what we are as a human animal, I think.
Wow.
You know, and that's what makes it so important and so much fun. Because now we're not spending all day just hunting for food. We can go to the grocery store, we can see what's available, and we can be sort of inspired by what is there. And then we can have the time to go home and prepare it.
So you see monster chefs doing monster things, and you see them dipping a spoon into a sauce and tasting it and looking up into the air with this sharp discrimination for perfection. What as a foodie, as a connoisseur, as someone who strives after that, what do you look for in a good dish and a good? What's going through a chef's mind when they're processing their palate?
Well, I think it's probably the same as if you're a sommelier with wine, or if you know about coffee. Food is the same. There's a balance there, and that's what you're looking for, and that's what I try and teach. To be honest, probably the three main ingredients in a good dish is the texture, the crunch, and then probably sweet, sour, and can be heat as well. Those are the main ingredients. And unfortunately, the people who make food, process foods, the industrial complex, understand that. So when you go to fast food, a lot of those components are in there. The saltiness, the crunchiness, and those things. And that's why fast food can be quite addictive to some people. But it doesn't make it good food. And if you actually taste good food, you understand the difference.
Okay.
It
makes total sense to me. That is brilliant. I never heard it put that way.
So the other thing I would say, when you say about the texture and what the food should look like, I actually taught a course last night. We do a dinner date night. We had three couples, and I teach them about sauce cooking because my background, my training was sort of European French cooking, and sauces, of course, are very important to the French, who are sort of the masters at those really defining those notes in sauces which you were talking about, the texture, the silkiness, the look. And we do one sauce. It's just a simple, really a white wine cream sauce. But the look of this sauce when it's finished should look like porcelain when it's put on the plate. And there's certain techniques you do to get it that way. And I teach that. And people are amazed because they don't, if you don't know about cooking, you don't realize just adding a little bit of butter at the end, putting it through a very fine strainer, all these things, you can get a shine on a sauce that is like porcelain. And that's what you learn as a chef. And of course, the texture of the sauce, how it coats the palate, how it coats your tongue is very important. It can't be too thick, it can't be too thin. And that's sort of, those are the technical sides of cooking.
I want to learn from you.
And you know what? It's fun. And that's the thing. And you get fairly instant gratification. So it's an art that everyone can do. You can do it as a team. You can do it as a solo sport. And within the half an hour, you get results and satisfaction. So, in some ways, it's easier than being a painter and being a musician, where you might have to go through years of discipline. You can get to a certain level very, very easily if you have an interest in cooking.
Okay, if I wanted to learn from you, where are you? How can I join you?
Oh, well, we're just in Collingwood, on the Poplar Side Road. We have our bed and breakfast, and we've turned our garage used to be. We had a 2-car garage, which we never actually put a car in. We turned it into a training kitchen. We have 4 stoves. We can accommodate up to about 16 people, although 12 is probably our maximum. But we've done some team building classes for corporations. But I tell you what, I teach people, but I tell you what, I get as much back when I teach them. And I have to be honest, because every group of people we have, and it can be even just 2 people, they give something back. Because for 3 hours, and most classes are between 3, maybe 4 hours, you get to know somebody when you're cooking with them. And I don't know whether you cook in the kitchen with anyone, but you do. You actually, you spend time together.
It is funny. I just occasionally I get together with some friends and I host a little port party, and nothing too formal, but you have some cheeses, you have some ports, and it's interesting. I hosted at a friend's house, and everyone gravitated in the kitchen.
They always do.
He did the rest of this house up. He didn't do anything in the kitchen. He's like, why does everyone always just go to the kitchen?
Yeah, I know. And that's why when you design your house, it's very important is, how do you handle that? We actually built our own home in the year 2000, and our kitchen is not a large kitchen. It's a very efficient kitchen, and I have a sort of window through to the living room, And the reason for that is I don't want people in my kitchen, but I still want to be part of the group, and they can come up and talk to me. But I like to have my space when I'm cooking, especially when when we're entertaining. So if you've got an open plan kitchen, you're going to automatically invite people to the kitchen. Right. So it's important to see when you have a kitchen, what do you want to use it for? Entertaining, cooking, or a bit of both.
Do you have a favorite kind of cuisine you like to make, or do you like the change of different textures and textures?
Actually, teaching people to cook is really quite interesting because it allows me to teach a variety of different cuisines. Probably our most popular is actually our Thai course. And the reason, there's a number of reasons because people like Thai, that style of those flavors, those sweet and sour and hot spicy flavors. And it's also very healthy sort of ingredients involved. And it can be a vegetarian or a vegan sort of course as well. So that's why it's a popular course. But I also, just this last week, somebody wanted to learn to make macaroons, French macaroons. So I did a macaroon course, with almond macaroons, French macaroons, coconut macaroons. So my life now is a lot more varied than when we were in the restaurant business or when I cooked in even the private dining rooms. Because now I actually cook a lot of different things, and it can be baking one day, it can be bread making, it can be Thai, it can be an Asian course, we can do a totally Italian course, we can do a kid's birthday party where the kids make pizza and little cupcakes. So in a way, I've actually honed my skills much more as a chef, because if you're in a restaurant situation, you're cooking that menu, and you're probably cooking that menu for quite a long period of time. And the menus now, if you notice in restaurants, are getting smaller. In good restaurants, a lot smaller.
True. That's true.
So the variety isn't there to use a lot of different ingredients. Whereas when I was training as a chef, we had very large menus, and we also had ingredients that you wouldn't even see nowadays, like green turtle, plover's eggs. These are all sort of things that are now protected species, so you don't use them. But we have very large menus which are changed twice a day. So you got to learn with a lot of different chefs, but also with a lot of different foods from lots of different places.
Why has the menu shrunken over the years?
A number of reasons, I think. And when it comes to the high-end, really very high-end restaurants, each dish, because it's very particular how everything is placed on the dish, is quite complex. And to be able to do that efficiently, you have to sort of restrict the menu. That's one. I think sometimes a lot of restaurants are trying to use seasonal fresh ingredients, so that also restricts the menu. I think it's easier to handle. I think it's easier to train staff. So there's many reasons for it, really.
Yes.
But as I told you, when I went up first started as an apprentice, there was 80 chefs employed in the kitchen that I was in. Now, any one service would have at least 40 or 50 chefs on duty. So you can imagine, how much it costs to have that sort of brigade. Now, subsequently, I've been back to that restaurant, which was the grill room at the Savoy Hotel, and it's now a Ramsay's restaurant, and it's like a fifth of the size, with probably just a dozen cooks, dozen chefs, and a smaller menu.
That is huge change.
So it's huge changes from the traditional sort of French brigade, large brigades, which I miss because, in fact, there's a really good reference to music and what it's like to be in a kitchen. In a big kitchen where you have maybe 40 chefs and you have all the party system, different sections, when the service is going on, it's very similar to a symphony orchestra. If you can see that, you have the conductor, which is the chefs, they're calling out the orders, just like a conductor with a baton. And it works like that. And there's a few books written about, what it's like to be in the kitchen. George Orwell's Down and Out in Paris and London. And there's a play by Arnold Wesker, which is set in a kitchen. And it sort of captures that sort of energy.
Yes. There is unfortunately, kitchens are often closed to the public that are making the orders, but I used to enjoy frequenting coffee shops, and you actually see that because it's open to the public. And yeah, right from the person at the till to calling the order, and you get to watch the chain. It's like a ballet. It is like a symphony of sorts.
When it works, it's
Yes.
exactly like a symphony, because the orders get called out.
Yes.
So it's like, these are the notes
Yes.
we're going to play,
Yes.
and it all has to come together at the same time.
If I wanted to taste your cooking, I understand I can go to your bed and breakfast.
You can, the bed and breakfast, and we're fairly unique when it comes to the food side of the bed and breakfast, because we actually offer our guests a menu, which they choose the night before what sort of they might want for breakfast. And a lot of the ingredients we try and grow on the property. We have our own hens for the eggs. I cure the bacon. I make the sausages. A lot of all the preserves we have are made by me, and a lot of the fruits are from the property. For instance, I made rhubarb and ginger preserve just last week from the rhubarb from this season. We have our own honey. So we try to also, do what we can to use, very local ingredients as well.
If you wanted an average person sitting watching the show in their kitchen, if you wanted to give them a hint or a word of wisdom as a professional, what would you share with them?
Well, I think if they're a parent, sit down and eat with your children as often as you can, most nights. Cook with them, teach them to cook. If you don't cook, maybe be inspired to learn to cook. I think we celebrate, every family occasion we celebrate with food. So why not celebrate the evening, being at home with your kids in the evening with food? Make time for it. Make the time that you might go to a spin class for half an hour. So I'm going to spend that also half an hour to go to the grocery store and maybe prepare a dinner with my family. That's what I think is important. And I think if we do more of that, we have better family units as well. And those kids will also go on and teach their kids. There was a sort of lost generation in the 80s when both parents went out to work. The food industry said you don't have to cook anymore. You can either buy it ready-made at the grocery store, or you come to our restaurant on the corner and grab your dinner. And it happened. And it's only now, because of these health issues that we have, and the understanding that a lot of the processed food that's been offered isn't really very good for you, that we're starting to understand and take control over what we eat. But it's important to do it in a fun way. Don't go... I sometimes have some issues with extremism in food as well. Saying you shouldn't eat this or you shouldn't eat that. I think you should eat what you enjoy, and just don't eat too much of the things that probably don't do you very much good. But enjoy food. Enjoy the companionship around food.
Pleasure having you on the show today.
It's been a delight.
Really, absolutely.
Thank you very much.
I look forward to coming to your bed and breakfast. If I wanted to get a hold of you at your bed and breakfast or your academy, your website.
Well, the best thing is go on the website, which is the Collingwood Cooking Academy, or Willow Trace Bed and Breakfast. That's Willow as in the tree. Both great sites. My daughter and son-in-law, she's in marketing, and my son-in-law does all the web stuff. So they usually come up good, pretty high up on Google. Lots of photographs. Lots of photographs of people enjoying cooking classes.
Because that's where it's at. It's not necessarily the dish, but it's the experience, it's the community.
It's the experience. It's more than just the food. It's what food means to us and how we celebrate it.
Wow. Well, I'll take your advice. I'll try to cook more often. It's too easy to let the time just disappear, and then you don't...
Make time. It's an important part of your life.
Yes.
It's actually the food and who you share it with.
All right. Art happens on a dish. Art happens on your palate. Art happens. Thank you for joining us at this show. Again, pleasure having you on the show.
Thank you very much.
Yes. And join us in the next show, because more art will be happening very soon, right in front of you. But remember, leave your computer. Go cook something.
Art Happens is brought to you in part by the Spalding School of Music, Backland Photography,